Okay, so I put a post out on Instagram asking for some video suggestions, and I got some great ideas, but I decided to go with the most obvious one. The events have just been released for Strongest Man on Earth, aka the Shore Classic, so I thought I'd talk about those. Brian puts on a great event at Strongest Man on Earth, the Shore Classic as well, which is basically the expo side of it, and the amateurs or the open compares. I say amateurs, they're not really amateurs, they're great level strong men and strong women, so they all get to compete and qualify for the Strongest Man on Earth the following year. So fantastic event. Like I said, I've been a part of it right since the beginning, and it's been brilliant every time I've been there. So I just want to go through the events as Brian has released them recently. So first up, we're going to talk about it. We've got the max log. Now, with the competitors that we know are definitely going, I'm sure we're going to see some huge numbers. I'm sure that we're going to see some guys perhaps not getting the world record, but guys are going to be close to it. I wouldn't say you got guys like Mitch Hooper, Bobby Thompson, Thomas Evans. There's some big log pressers there. Now, are they going to challenge Bibby's world record? Potentially not, but it's still going to be some fantastic lifting going on, and I'm sure we're going to see a number of guys surpass 200 kilos, which is kind of like when I was in my prime, it was sort of that was the benchmark of being an amazing presser. Now it's more the benchmark of being, up there, but perhaps not the absolute best. So it would be great to see a number of the guys progressing on and maybe getting close to that world record. It would be good to see a few of the guys around 210, 220, which I think is a very real possibility. There's some extremely strong guys competing, and everyone always turns up at the Strongest Man on Earth in shape. So that's definitely something I think that we will see. I just introduced you to my little sidekick, Zach here, my son. He's 9 years old. Yeah, you might have seen him before, but I've actually got a picture of Brian holding Zach. I'll post it where he is there. When he was just a baby. When Brian come over to England and did a tour of a load of gyms and did some seminars, we met up and went for some food, and Zach was just a baby at the time, so I've got a great picture of them both together. Right, so next event. So we've got the keg toss for max weight this time. Now, I don't know what the height of the bar is going to be, but I think it's a slightly different spin. He did max height last year. We saw a world record with 4 breaking it, which was fantastic. Actually you sort of think of keg toss, it's not the most exciting event in the world sometimes, but I think that moment created a lot of excitement in the arena. The crowd went absolutely nuts when he broke it, and it's a slightly different spin for max weight. I assume they'll just set the bar at around about sort of 4 meters, maybe a little bit more, and then just up the weight, and it'll be interesting to see what the guys can do. So excited for that. I mean, like I said, it's not the most exciting event in the world, but when you get those moments of something really impressive, it's always exciting no matter what. And also for the guys, this is an extremely heavy show. It's very tough on their bodies. So this type of event, it's not a rest, but it's a sort of different test. So perhaps we'll give their bodies a little bit of a chance to, not get too beaten up through the show. So we've got the next event, which is the frame carry into arm over arm. Now, I don't know the exact dynamics. Brian always tries to bring in new bits of equipment, make things look spectacular, which I think is a great thing, actually. I mean, with Strongman, I think that was part of the appeal. That was always one of the things that was amazing about it, was seeing guys lifting stuff that people understand is heavy. I think sometimes it goes away from that, and I don't particularly like it that much. I like to see you lifting a log, yeah. I like to see guys lifting up cars, pulling trucks, pulling planes, that sort of thing. I do think that it's, people that don't lift weights understand those objects are heavy, and I think that's one thing Brian does a great job of. Like with the leg press, it was a car leg press, so people know a car is super heavy. So I think things like that can really help sort of make it a show. So I don't know exactly what Brian's going to do with this year, but I know that he'll do a good job of making it look like a real genuine test, and I mean, I would assume he's going to use the arm over arm that he's used the previous couple of years, where it's like a hoist. And it actually created some good moments, because you see guys obviously going really well and then their grip fails and stuff like that. So I think the frame carry almost is just a little bit of a thing in there to tax them a little bit. But ultimately, it's going to be won or lost on the arm over arm. The frame carry will, for most of these guys, will be a routine thing. There'll be some slightly quicker than others, but it'll be won or lost on the arm over arm for sure. So next up, we've got the Manhood stones, which I assume is going to be a very similar setup to last year, where they're the different weights, which again created drama in itself last year. You had Tom going for the heaviest stone straight away, failing it, and then sort of expended so much energy that perhaps couldn't get the lighter weights. And I think that we all expected Tom to win that event. And he obviously, when he didn't, and he actually ended up dropping quite a lot of points on that, it shows sort of the strategy that comes into competitions like the Strongest Man on Earth. I mean, like I said, Brian makes things extremely hard for the guys. Heavy, hard. It's very taxing on their bodies. So you do need to use some level of, not intelligence, but, you know, like playing the game a little bit. You need some strategy. And I think that is an event, obviously, where it can make or break you. If you go for one that's too heavy, it could cost you points. But then also, if you go for one that's slightly lighter, and you don't want to be regretting not going for the heavier one. So you've got to be very confident in your own abilities and know where you're at and what you're capable of. It's a true test of strength when they're heavy like that, and when it's not necessarily a race, which I know that Brian's obviously a big fan of. He tries to make the Strongest Man on Earth about who's the strongest, and you know, I'm not one to disagree with that. I've actually had times in the past where I've felt frustrated, where I was getting beaten on, say, a deadlift for reps when it was light, knowing that I was stronger in terms of top end strength than some of the guys that were beating me, and it is quite frustrating. So I know that Brian sort of sets that as his sort of benchmark. This competition is to find the strongest man, not necessarily the best strong man, if that makes sense. A lot of other competitions, it's more about being the best strong man and the best all-round athlete for that, you know, for our sport. Whereas Brian's is more about finding the strongest. It's kind of what the Arnolds used to be. I think the Arnolds has perhaps gone away from it a little bit. It used to be like by far the heaviest and hardest show of the year, and now I wouldn't say it is. I think that Brian's has taken over that mantle. It's the toughest competition there is. I remember talking to Brian a lot about the days when we did Fortissimus, and it was extremely tough. And, you know, I was of the belief that that's how World's Strongest Man should be. Yes, there's still some moving events in there. It's not super static, but everything was heavy and hard. And the other thing, where there's a number of events you can't hide from any weakness you've got. And I think that that's another thing that Brian does a great job of. So next up is a new event, the giant trap bar deadlift for max. Now, I've seen a little bit of, not drama, but a few people making comments on this. People sort of questioning the safety of it and things like that. Well, I mean, my opinion is a trap bar deadlift is safer than a regular deadlift. And then I've had some people questioning that why couldn't they just do a car deadlift. I'm all for this. I'm like, let's see what they can do. I mean, it's something I've never really understood. We go away from lifts in strongman that normal gym goers understand. It's like they've never had, or very rarely had, bench press in competition, which I don't actually agree with personally, believe it or not. I know strongman has traditionally always been an overhead press, and I know the reason why they don't put a bench press in is because it's very hard to see, like, the face, and it's not great for TV. I think Brian sort of tried to remedy that with the chest press, which actually worked really well. It was a cool bit of kit, and you can see the guys lifting it, and it's comparable to a bench press. Now, a lot of people go in the gym and they don't necessarily deadlift because they're worried about hurting their backs and things like this, which that's a whole nother conversation. But they do a lot of trap bar deadlifts. So why not test it? It's something that people do a lot in the gym, something that they'll perhaps understand. And, you know, depending on the height of the handles, I mean, we could see someone go out and do 600 kilos or close to it. And for me, that will sort of give an insight into how strong the top guys actually are, for people that have done a trap bar deadlift of 160, 180 kilos. You know, when they sort of start to realise it's like these guys are doing 600 kilos, it sort of shows you the level that they're at. And I'm actually all for it. I think it's going to be fantastic. I'm hoping he uses these big Hummer tyre wheels. I think that would look extremely cool. A massive big trap bar, handles at a decent height so they're not too low. And let's see what the guys can do. But like I said, I've seen a few things that where people are not that keen, but Brian's always trying to try new things. He's got a very clear view in his mind of what he wants the show to be and what he thinks will look cool. And as a most part, they have looked cool. So I'm excited to see it. I don't really care about people saying it's dangerous or they're worried about the safety of the guys. I don't think it's dangerous personally. I would be quite happy to do it as an event when I was competing. So, and you can only lift what you can lift. At the end of the day, the strongest guy will lift what he can lift. And if you're not strong enough to win that event, then it is what it is. I don't think it's any more of an injury risk than other events. Next up, we've got the safe carry, which basically is a yoke. I assume he's going to put some sort of bit of equipment where there's safes on the end. But yoke's always a good event. It's always pretty cool. Not sure exactly how he's going to set it out yet, but Brian likes a heavy yoke, so I'm certain it's going to be at least 1,000 pounds, 455 kilos. But I would fully expect Brian, being Brian, for it to be up over 500 kilos personally. I think, like I said, Brian sets his stall out. He wants his to be the hardest, heaviest show. He wants it to find the strongest man on earth, and this is the way he sees it. So I'm excited for it. I mean, I think, again, you've got to sort of look at the athletes competing, guys like Hooper, you know, they Evan Singleton as well. They can make light work of 500 kilos. So it kind of has to be heavy like that in a way. Now, I think you couldn't do every show heavy like this. So like when you've got the sort of Giants Lives, World's Strongest Man, Arnold's, Rogue, if all of them took this stance of making everything super heavy, it would break the guys very quickly. But I totally agree with the fact that we can have a show or two shows that are like this a year and the guys can cope with it. Because, you know, the Giants Live arena shows tend to be a little bit more, you know, more athletic based. They're not crazy heavy. Everything's sort of, it's heavy enough to find the strongest guy, but it's not so heavy it's going to break the guys. So I think that throwing in a show like this that's super heavy and super hard on the guys isn't too much of a problem. I mean, obviously in strongman, injuries are always a bit of a risk. That's just part of the sport. And obviously all the guys know what they're getting themselves into and they want to challenge themselves. That's the other thing. You know, like most of the guys actually want to do these events where it's testing them. I know I did when I was competing. I hated it, like going into competitions going, oh, I can do that. It's just about, you know, can I do it in 11 seconds or 10 and a half seconds, or, oh, can I do 13 reps or 16 reps with that? I mean, for me, you know, that's a bit frustrating, especially if you're someone that's very strong and got that sort of real sort of top-end strength. And ultimately the sport is meant to find the strongest man. So I don't have an issue with it being super heavy and super hard. Next up, we've got the standing chest press. Well, we've seen it in the past. It worked really well. It split the guys well. There was a very sort of good split from guys that didn't get a lot of reps to guys that completed it. I thought it was really cool. And like I said earlier, I think any event that we can put in that makes people that go to the gym understand what we do and how strong the guys are is a good thing. And like I said, this is kind of comparable to a bench press. When you hear the weights that it's taking to push to sort of do it, it does make sense. You know, like I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think they went up to like 600 pounds and it makes, or over that, and it makes the guys realise, you know, these guys can bench press over 600 pounds. That's how strong they are. And I think that that's a great thing. I think it looked cool with the setup, the way Brian did it, with the barrels dropping in. It did look quite good, and it was probably the only way you could make a chest press, bench press look interesting is by having them standing up like that. Like I said, it's all about getting that reaction and seeing the guys, you know, seeing their face and stuff like that. We kind of want to see that in strongman competitions, because ultimately, if it wasn't entertaining, we'd just be a bunch of dumb meatheads lifting in car parks. So you do need to have things like this that make it entertaining. And I think, yeah, that's about as good as it could be for that type of movement. And I really enjoyed it. Last but not least, the last event, which is tire flip into power stairs. Now, I don't know how heavy the tires are going to be. You know, I don't know anything about the tires. I know the power stairs that Brian uses are pretty up there in terms of the weight. They're quite heavy, fairly tall stairs as well. I mean, this is going to be a really tough event, especially as the last one. The guys are going to be pretty exhausted by this point. But I think that, you know, like I said, Brian likes to do things the way he does. He wouldn't put something in that he wouldn't have done when he was competing. So he's got a very clear view on how he wants strongman to be. This show, sort of, he gets to call the shots. And I think that tire flipping to power stairs could create some exciting moments, especially if the points are close at the end. You know, you can get those bits of drama where someone slips on the tire and then the other person overtakes them, or they miss a step on the power stairs. There's a lot of opportunity for those moments for people to catch up and overtake in terms of points. It creates entertainment, it creates drama. So I think that he's done a good job of picking the events. I think, like I said earlier, I mean, I think the sport has to be entertaining. If it's not entertaining, not just for us strongman fans, this is the thing, we're all sold. We don't mind if it's a barbell and weights or it's some sort of contraption or whatever. It makes no difference to us because we understand the weights. But people outside of our circles, people that are just, oh, I wouldn't mind watching some of that, we need to make them understand what we're doing and also be entertained by it. And I think that, like I said, strongman, I think, has lost that spectacle sometimes, where it's almost a bit sanitized now, and it's like you see like barbells and weights and things like that. And if you want to get into the people that are perhaps not necessarily fans of strongman, they're sort of like, they'll watch it every now and then. If you really want to get into them, you've got to show them something that they understand. They don't understand weights, they don't understand numbers, they understand that car is really heavy, that washing machine is really heavy. This is the sort of thing that they understand. That tyre, I know that's going to be very heavy. I don't know how it would feel to flip it. I don't know how hard it is, but I can see it's very heavy. And I think that, like I said, Brian does a great job of this. He's trying to bring back that sort of old school spectacle. And I think that that's very important if you want the sport and the event to grow. We're going to get far more eyes on the sport if people are understanding of what we're trying to do. So, I mean, all in all for me, tough show, really tough show for the guys. I believe it's 8 events over 2 days as normal. It is extremely tough, but we will definitely find the strongest guy. There's, like I said, 8 events. There's nowhere to hide. If you've got a weak link, it's going to show up really badly. But also in the respect of, if you've got a weak link but you're exceptionally good at everything else, it does give you an opportunity to catch up as well. I always used to get frustrated with the Arnolds. They'd have 5 events and 2 of them would be pressing events. Well, for me, like, my overhead press was by far my weakness. I had no ability to catch those points back up, whereas in something like this, I perhaps would have. So we're going to find a better reflection on who's got the best all-round strength. So yeah, I'm really excited for it. I don't know if I'm going to be out there yet or not. But certainly if I'm not out there, I'll be watching on the live stream. So thoroughly looking forward to it. Like I said, Brian and Kerry put on an amazing event. It's getting bigger each year. I know he's got the arm wrestling going on as well this year, which is going to be fantastic. Something new, you know, something a bit different. They sort of toyed with it a little bit a couple of years ago. And now they've actually got Brian Oberst against Eddie as well. So that's going to be interesting to see how they get on. So yeah, it's exciting. I think it's, like I said, last year I did a seminar over in the in the expo bit, and I've thoroughly enjoyed that. It was great. The crowd were brilliant. Asked a lot of questions. We had a lot of interaction, which was really good. And I think I followed Juji Mufu, who was on the stage before me, and he had a great crowd, loads of great questions and stuff like that. So I think those little things going on, as well as the main event, make the whole thing that much bigger. And I think it's only going to continue to grow. Gets more companies involved, more stands there. He can put more events on, more people doing talks, more educational stuff. You know, it can just continue to grow and grow and grow. And I think that Brian is doing what he always does in terms of not doing things by halves. You know, as a competitor, he was extremely dedicated, focused, hardworking. And I think he's sort of taken that same mindset and that same mentality into this event to try and just keep continuing to improve it every year. Like he tried to improve himself as an athlete every year. So, like I said, thoroughly looking forward to it. I've loved every year that I've been there in the past, and I will certainly be watching it, whether that's at the event or on the live stream, because it's going to be a cracker. And I mean, if I'm honest, the event I'm most looking forward to seeing, like I said, a few people have been a little bit negative about it. I'm really looking forward to seeing the trap bar deadlift, because it's something that's not been done before. So there's that sort of, you know, that little bit of just not knowing, and that can add to entertainment as well. You know, you could have someone that's not necessarily a humongous deadlifter come out and end up winning that event, because they're exceptionally good at that type of lift. So yeah, really excited for it. I think it's going to be a great event, and I think we're going to see some amazing performances, as we always do. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope that wasn't too long and too boring for you. And as always, if anyone's got any suggestions, things they'd like me to cover in the future, please drop them in the comments. I am trying to grow my YouTube channel, obviously, and I'm not the best when it comes to ideas on what to film. I'm trying to sort of just get the next few weeks where I'm getting some good content out there, and then obviously at World's Strongest Man I can get some stuff about the role that I'm doing now. That's just been announced. I am one of the athlete ambassadors, me and Rob Kearney. So we are we have a couple of roles where people come to us, the athletes come to us if they've got issues with the filming, the timings, things like that. We then relay that back to the organisers and the TV people. So we go from meetings like that. It also can go the other way, whereas if the TV people and the organisers have got an issue with the athletes, they can talk to us and we can then relay it back to them. And kind of we're like the middlemen. But also on top of that, we're going to be doing some promotional stuff for the event. I think Rob's going live at some point, promoting the event. We're both doing some TV appearances while we're there. I've got to do a podcast in the build up to it to talk about the event. So yeah, really looking forward to that. And like I said, I'm trying to sort of build the YouTube up. I've got plenty of content that I can film in the future when events are on and things like that, but it's the in-between stuff I'm not so great with ideas. So if anyone's got any, please let me know. And thanks for watching.